What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Purple and Gold podcast. Today, we are going to be doing a way too early 2023 NFL mock draft. Now, when draft night actually comes in 2023, things are going to look drastically different because the draft order is going to be different depending on how the season ends. Teams are going to be making moves in free agency, which is going to change the way they approach their needs for their teams. So, what we see now is going to be drastically different, but I think it's still exciting nonetheless to look at the future of the NFL and the upcoming NFL draft. Now, before we start, hit the subscribe button if you like NFL content because it's a small channel and any support really helps. Drop a comment, leave a like, share the video. It's all greatly appreciated. Now, with the first overall pick, let's not spend too much time on this one. I feel like it's a no-brainer. We're going to take Bryce Young. Now, if you're a believer in Davis Mills, I hate to break it to you, I'm not. Now, the way that we're going to do this is I'm just going to go based on what I think these teams' needs are. Some of them I'm going to be choosing best player available. It really just depends on the situation that they're in and also based on the current players that they have on their team. So with Bryce Young, look, I don't think Davis Mills is a horrible quarterback by any means. I think he's in a pretty terrible situation, but I think Bryce Young is going to just have the ability to take whatever team he's on to the next level, the level of being a potential Super Bowl contender because he has the potential to be a very good franchise quarterback for the next 20 years and be that franchise quarterback at an extremely high level. There's no question about whether he's talented or not. This dude's an absolute stud. And if he isn't the first overall pick in the draft, I'd be extremely surprised. So this would be a great pick for the Texans. Really get themselves a superstar in the building, which they don't really have at this moment. Now, for the Carolina Panthers, this is where, some may disagree. But I really like Matt Corral. And I know that this is a scenario where it's highly likely that the Panthers could take C.J. Stroud. But Matt Corral was a guy who I had with a first-round grade last year. He got hurt this year. I think he probably would have gotten an opportunity to play had he not gotten hurt. We'll never know. But he's still in a situation where I think he does have the opportunity to start. He has so much potential. And the reason why he fell to the third round in the NFL draft is because teams found out that he deals with depression. And that concerned a little bit of teams because I don't know if the thought process is he's not going to always mentally be there 100% of the time. And his depression might be a distraction, which they don't want from the guy who literally runs the team in terms of the players and leadership. So a lot of things factor into that, but I'm a huge believer in Matt Corral. I thought that he was the best quarterback in last year's NFL draft class, and I thought it was tremendous value to be getting him in the third round. But if they do think that C.J. Stroud is just much, much better, I wouldn't be surprised if they take him. But like I said, as a firm believer in Matt Corral, I'm going to roll with him to see if he's going to be the potential franchise quarterback of the future. And for now, let's build around him and get some key players. So I'm going to bring in Will Anderson from Alabama. Two Bama guys going in the first two picks of the NFL draft. Will Anderson is the best edge rusher in this class. I don't know if that's really arguable at this moment. We'll see when the season ends. Things can look a lot different. But if you compare him up with Brian Burns on the other side, that is going to be a tandem to deal with on the defensive side of the ball. I do think that the Carolina Panthers defense is a stronger point of their team, which doesn't really say much because they gave up 4 touchdowns to Joe Mixon this past week. But this would really make things difficult for an opposing offense to move the ball because these guys would constantly be putting pressure in their face. Will Anderson is a game wrecker, a game changer. Now, for the Las Vegas Raiders, this is a team that I think the roster is just pretty bad overall. And in this situation, you just need to take the best player available. Now, I'm not a huge Derek Carr fan, but I'm also not a huge Josh McDaniels fan. And I think he's a huge reason why this team has taken a step back here in 2022. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is give him Jalen Carter. At this moment, they have Bilal Nichols, and it was BJ Phillips. Is that his name? I think I got that completely wrong. Either way, not very good in the middle. And so Jalen Carter is another game wrecker. I mean, look, all of these guys are. They're taken in the top 10 for a reason. I think Jalen Carter is going to be a pretty good player in the NFL, highly disruptive, and he needs to bring some more of that pressure, which the team is kind of lacking at this moment. I mean, they got Max Crosby, but that's about it. And so I think that this would be a huge piece, at least for the defensive side of the ball, really help out a secondary that's also not one of the stronger points of the team. So I would really like to see Jalen Carter go within the top 5 of the draft. He's really deserving of it. And when you're drafting that high, sometimes taking the best player available is the best situation to be in. And I think that's exactly what the Raiders are in here in this current moment for this 2023 NFL mock draft. Now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is one where we're going to draft for need. And this is to build around Kenny Pickett. What we're going to do here is take Peter Skoronski here out of Northwestern. The reason for this is because they don't really have a guy, at the tackle position that's going to hold it down for this line. And you need to go out there and protect your franchise quarterback. His pocket hasn't been the greatest since he's been starting. And so I just want a guy out there to protect the franchise quarterback, give him a chance to succeed. And I think it starts with the trenches. I'm a firm believer in really building that offensive and defensive line. And if Skoronski is anything like the last tackle that came out of Northwestern, he's going to be pretty damn good. If you don't know who I'm referencing, it's Rashawn Slater, left tackle for the Los Angeles Chargers. So I think it's really important to go out there, protect your franchise QB. And tackle has been a position that's been relatively successful when teams choose to take that position in the top 10. So teams are doing a pretty good job of evaluating those guys. I think Peter Skoronski could be a franchise tackle for this team. Now for the Detroit Lions, this would be the dream scenario. You don't got to trade up. Go ahead and get yourself C.J. Stroud here from Ohio State. That would bring 2 Ohio State quarterbacks into the NFC North. C.J. Stroud along with Justin Fields. And he has the athletic ability. Doesn't, always use it. But I think he would be a huge step up from Jared Goff and would actually make this team relevant and give them a shot. I don't think Jared Goff is a horrible player, but I think he definitely needs a ton of talent around him to be successful, whereas I think C.J. Stroud can probably elevate your team whether the talent is there or not. So, this team also just needs a breath of fresh air. They need a franchise quarterback, someone who they can really believe in for the future. Similar to the Texans, I like this pick here for the Lions at number 5. Now, for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think this is one where you don't necessarily have to draft for need. I think you just take the best player available. They have a lot of young guys on the roster right now that they're just hoping are going to, pan out, and this team will trend in the right direction. And I think right now they are. And some of these guys just need more snaps, more experience. So what we're going to do right here is we're going to bring in Brian Breezy from the Clemson Tigers. And what just happened here? Okay, anyway, I think there was a glitch in the PFF system. Anyway, Brian Breezy is a 300-pound defensive tackle for the Clemson Tigers right now, and he has the ability to create some pretty nasty pass rush. And the Jaguars are a 3-4 scheme, so he would be playing on the inside for the most part, and I think that that's where he fits best in an NFL defense when I just took a quick glance at some of his highlights. So I think this is a case where they just need to take the best player available on the board. And so we're going to listen to PFF here, bring in an interior lineman. They have Roy Robertson Harris right now and Foloranzo Fatakasi, but neither of those guys are really accelerating in that system. So wouldn't hurt to bring someone in the rotation there. Again, I think with these teams that are always struggling, let's build through the trenches. I think that's always a great idea. Now, initially, I was going to take an edge rusher for the Eagles. Anyway, it was going to be Myles Murphy, but here, it's Nolan Smith. We're going to mix things up in the draft a little bit. So, this is a tough one because, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, this team is set. I mean, obviously, they're 8-0. This is one of the most, if not the most complete roster in the NFL. There is no need on this team, really, in my opinion. They've got dogs on every single level. And maybe if I had to choose one position, maybe I'd say safety, but there's no safety worth taking. You don't want to reach for a need. And so they have the luxury of taking the best player available here in the top 10. The reason why they have this pick is because they traded with the New Orleans Saints in last year's draft to acquire this pick. So, how beautifully this turned out for the Philadelphia Eagles. Props to Howie Roseman on making this trade. And what I'm going to do here is bring an edge rusher for them. Now, they brought in Robert Quinn, obviously, to get another guy within that rotation for the edge rushers. I see them doing the same thing here in the draft where they're just bringing in more ammunition to keep the legs fresh here in the edge rusher department in their group. And I think this makes a ton of sense. Whether you go with a Myles Murphy or a Nolan Smith, I think this is a great role for both of them to be in because I don't think either of them will make immediate impacts, but slowly grooming them into the system and allowing them to rotate, I think would be good for both of them. So Nolan Smith, Myles Murphy, either edge rusher I could see going to the Eagles right now. And for the Green Bay Packers, okay, they're stupid, okay? And I can say that with confidence, okay? This is a team that's sitting at 3-6 right now, and my Minnesota Vikings beat them. They're trash this year. And the big reason for that is because of their inability to bring in a wide receiver. Now, is inability the right word? I think it's more of like a choice. Like their decision to not bring in a wide receiver. Just the levels and levels and levels of stupidity to not bring in a wide receiver. And it's really biting them in the ass now. Do I feel bad? Not the slightest bit. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a wide receiver. Why? Because I'm not an idiot, okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to take Quentin Johnston. Now, the greatest thing about this is that this mock draft is what I would do. And so I'm comfortable with this. The Packers, on the other hand, might not take a wide receiver despite how much they're struggling with the position this year. I don't care anymore, okay? And I'm glad that they're stupid because I love to see the Packers lose. All right, let's put my hatred for the Packers aside. Quentin Johnston has been the most consistent wide receiver in football this year, and Max Duggan, the quarterback for the team, has heavily relied on him, just to be that guy who he can just throw the ball up to, and he's pretty confident he's going to come down and make the catch every single time, and Quentin Johnston has done exactly that. He's a huge reason why this TCU Horned Frogs team has been able to leap so much in the rankings over the weeks and have found themselves as the number 4 team in the college football playoff. He's constantly making plays over and over again. He's always finding the end zone. Quentin Johnston, I think, is going to be a pretty promising wide receiver. I can't wait to see, what his highlight reel looks like at the end of the season so we can really make a full, proper analysis on him. Now, for the Chicago Bears, this is a team that I think we could also potentially see taking a wide receiver, but because of the fact they traded away a relatively high draft pick, a second-round draft pick for Chase Claypool, and they already have Darnell Mooney on the team, I don't really suspect that they'll take another wide receiver here if they're in the top 10. What I'm going to do for them right here is I'm going to give them Myles Murphy. So, okay, I brain farted a little because initially I was going to give them Nolan Smith, and I was like, where did he go? And I was like, oh, yeah, PFF took him already. So I'm going to give them an edge rusher because this defense is pretty bad, and they don't really have a prominent edge rusher right now that you can really rely on. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the 2 edge rushers they have right now are Kamara, not Alvin Kamara, but Kamara and Muhammad, and neither of those guys are great. I mean, those guys were both backups at one point, and so there's no reason why they should be starting. Let's get Myles Murphy in there. Let's get someone who can be disruptive, create pressure on the defensive line. You don't have Robert Quinn. You don't have Khalil Mack anymore. It's time to bring in the future of the defense, and I think it's going to start with Myles Murphy here from the Clemson Tigers. I think that pick makes a ton of sense. I hope it does to you guys as well. And the final pick that we're going to be doing here in the mock draft, the way too early 2023 NFL mock draft, is here with the Arizona Cardinals. Guys, if you have enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Do anything you can to support the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. And if you have any comments or criticisms, leave it in the comment section. I'm always happy to reply. Now, the last pick right here, what I'm going to do for the Cardinals is get them some defensive help. I feel like they have constantly looked for a new cornerback ever since they lost Patrick Peterson, and they haven't really been able to do it. So you got Byron Murphy on one side, who in my opinion is a cornerback 2 at best, and there's nothing that they can really do about it. Aside from him, they have Marco Wilson, who, I don't know. I mean, he's not horrible. He's holding it down on his side, but I think you could see much better production from a more talented corner. There's a reason why Marco Wilson was taken late in his respective draft. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to take Cam Smith out of South Carolina. The rest of this draft should be simulated. No, because I'm the Texans and I'm running this. It doesn't matter. I'm an idiot. Call me Green Bay. And so we have concluded our way too early 2023 NFL mock draft. You guys can take a look at it right here. Well, we know that Bryce Young's the number 1 pick, so we'll hold it like this right now. But let me know what you guys think about my way too early NFL mock draft. Do you guys think I did a good job? Do you guys disagree with some of the picks? Let me know in the comment section below. And again, don't forget to subscribe. This is the Purple and Gold Podcast, and I'll see you guys all later.